Hello and welcome to another episode of Bare Bones Wargaming, a show with no bells, no whistles, no frills, just a man, a camera, and his game. This episode we're going to continue with our play of Pacific Tide, United States versus Japan 1941-45, designed by Greg Smith, published by Compass Games. Now, I'm halfway through 1942. How do I know I'm halfway through 1942? Well, as I explained at the end of the last video, you split the decks when you get your new cards for the year. So I've gone through half of the decks basically right now. Now, since I last left you, not to sound like a soap opera, when we last left our situation, I have managed to secure the waters off Borneo, so I'm ready to invade there in the near future. The Philippines has been locked down. I pushed the enemy out of the Solomons. I've moved these units into position here to prepare to strike at the U.S. with a carrier attack here shortly, which I'm going to do, and kind of risked a lot of things there. I haven't done much up here yet, but that's partly because I haven't got a whole lot of attack cards here at the beginning. I've had a few cards with a few attack things, but not really anything, and I only got one card with an amphib card out of, well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards, 6 cards that I had. So that's where we stand. Now the U.S. is in the defensive personality here, so they've been slowly building up, as you can see here, reinforcing the Solomons. Wake has been reinforced. Midway's been reinforced. Lots of build up here in Hawaii, and this carrier task force came out looking to challenge the Japanese. And quite frankly, I brought it down here to show you guys a nice big carrier fight, which I'm about to do here when I activate with my next card for the IJN. So, without further ado, let's get this show on the road, and I'll be talking about the solitaire rules too here as I play the US player side with the solo rules. So here we go. So the first card I'm going to use here in the second half of 1942 is this one, the Long Lance card. So I activate one area for movement and I attack one area. If the Japanese fleet's involved in this attack, roll 2 extra dice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate truck down here and move marshals to the South Pacific and try to strike this U.S. task force there. So I've got the Keto Butai, the 5 big fleet carriers, and I've got the 2 fleets, which I'll get 2 extra dice for. That's part of the reason why I did this. And I'm moving them into the South Pacific there. Some enchanted evening. Sorry. And preparing to do battle with the U.S. But the U.S. also has a card here, Magic Intercepts, okay? And this card can be discarded to give 2 extra dice in attack, amphib, or defense. Okay, now that goes along with this card here, okay, because again, this is the solo card. And again, you've got the things I talked about the other day, but you also have these priorities. Right now in 1942, defensively, the U.S. hasn't had to do any of these things. So I've just been kind of keeping an eye on and beefing up to all these areas here. I moved U.S. infantry unit up to the Aleutians. Okay, but down here, it talks about when to use the card. So like magic, use it for the next CV battle. We're about to have a CV battle, so guess what? We're about to use this card. Okay, so that one will be used to give the U.S. 2 extra dice. So let's get to it. Now, both sides, because of the year card, will get 2 dice per carrier aircraft. So I've got 5 here, which will give me 10 dice, plus 2 for my fleet, that's 12, plus 2 more for my Long Lance card, that's 14 dice I get to roll. And of course, as I mentioned last episode, I want 6s, lots and lots of 6s. So let's start rolling for the Japanese, and we'll zero in here on this battle in the South Pacific. Whoops, sorry about that, little earthquake in the Pacific, which with the Ring of Fire. Sing Johnny Cash here if you'd like to, is a possibility. So here we go. Alright, so 14 dice, starting now. Oh, it's a good start, good start. We rolled 1 6 already with our first 4 dice. So excellent. That's going to be 1 U.S. carrier sunk no matter what. And next 4, not so good. Like those old Bud Light commercials, right? Not so good. so that's 8. Here comes 12. Oh, sweet. Sweet. 2 more 6s. So I'm going to sink all 3 U.S. carriers no matter what. That was rather the point. Fine, thank you. And then, of course, I get 2 more dice for my 14. Not too shabby. Alright, so a lot of hits there on the U.S. Now, the U.S. will get 3 times 2 is 6. 8. They get 10 dice thanks to the magic card. So, will they be a magic man? I don't know. Let's find out. Ooh, they did manage to nail one of my carriers. I rolled the first 4 dice, and we do have a 6 among those first 4 dice. Yikes. Alright. Next 4 dice, because the US gets 10. Ouch. Kiro Butai. Taking a very, very bad hit here. But that's okay, because I've got the build CV cards for Japan. That's part of the reason I decided to risk this battle, quite frankly. Oh, me and my big mouth. Ah, look at that. Woo, this is one bloody fight. Alright, so let's do the damage here. Well, all 3 U.S. carriers are going to be gone. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the 3 U.S. carriers are gone, and air units, of course, there's no other friendly carriers around, so all the air units will be gone as well. They'll have no place to land at the end of the battle. But the U.S. player can take 3 hits with that, so that'll take that and get rid of those 3 hits there. I mean, there's no reason not to, right? Because you're going to lose them anyway. You might as well take the hits. And then last but not least, there's a 1-4. So one of the U.S. surface fleets will be damaged, and one will be okay. Alright. Now, I could have retreated before battle here, had I wanted to. But, again, just to show you how the naval aspect works here and stuff, I decided to go ahead and just not roll that. Okay. So, again, with these games, I'm not necessarily playing the best strategy and stuff. I'm just trying to show you how they work. Okay? So that's all that carnage there from those 14. Whoops. Speaking of carnage, those 14 dice. Alrighty. Now on the US side, equally ugly. I lost 4 of the 5 carriers, and then 3 more hits on top of that, which I will go ahead and take out of air units. So, in the end, I have 1 carrier left and 1 air unit. But again, I risked part of this because the U.S. has already built 3 new aircraft carriers this turn, so I know they're coming for me. So I wanted to go ahead and try and get ahead of them, and basically, by building, I have builds myself. I was hoping to get out of this without so much damage, but no dice. Alright, so 3, 6, so 3, 6, 7 US dice got hits. Now, all that damage, basically in the end, okay, after that, the side that inflicts more damage is the one that has to retreat. So we did not inflict as many damage points as they did, so we actually have to fall back. So we'll fall back towards the marshals, okay, and head out of there. Alright? So long as it's not enemy occupied, which the marshals are not. So that may have been a bit of a Pyrrhic victory for me, unfortunately. But, you know, fortune favors the brave, right? So, supposedly. Guess not that time, though, for the IJN. Alright. Now, the US player had 1 card left over. Whenever you have 1 card left from the first part of your deck, you add in the rest of them. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle these together. Because for the solitaire one, what you basically are going to do is you're going to draw 3 cards every time that you need to pick a card for the opposing side here. So I'll just do 1, 2, 3. Okay? Once you have the 3 chosen, Then you go ahead and you flip them. Top priority goes to cards that have the same letter as the stance, which right now is defensive. So this one will be the first one to be used. These two will be set aside, and they will not be shuffled back into the deck until all the other cards have had a chance to be played. All right. Now, there's also priority over here on the player aid card, which tells you which order to go. So like for defensive, D cards are played first, then B, then A, because obviously you're not being very aggressive. So this is submarine attack. Activate one area for movement. Alright, what I think I'm going to do then is I'm going to limp these guys back to Pearl Harbor to try and get them fixed for 1943. Okay, because you can require one each. Now, submarine attacks, let's see if that's one of the special cards over here on the US side. It is not. Okay, so now I can either remove one Japanese build point from next year's build total and attack one Japanese fleet with 2 dice, or I can attack one Japanese CV with 2 dice. Now, if I choose the latter, unlike in a naval battle, I don't need a 6. I just need a 4, 5, or 6. So you know what? I'm going to choose the latter, and I'm going to go ahead and try and sink that last Japanese carrier that we had over here in the Marshall Islands. So let's see, get 2 dice to do it with, and I rolled a 4, so guess what? Bye-bye last Japanese carrier, along with this air power. Ouch. That's going to leave a mark. Alright. Now, for Japan, yeesh. Well, I think the first thing I should do for Japan now, very logically, is I should go ahead and play CV builds. I got to get some CV back into the game. So I activate one area for movement. I'm trying to decide if I want to pull these back from the Marshalls and centralize them in the Marianas, or do I want to... Well, I'd rather leave these guys here to help. Well, they don't need their help anymore in the amphibious assault. But leaving these out in the Marshalls, they could get ambushed. There's those 3 U.S. carriers up there. You know what? I am going to pull them back into the Marianas to there. And now I place 2 full aircraft carriers in Japan. Okay. And again, I know risking that battle was, you know, a little, well, it could have been audacious if it had worked out well, but actually it ends up being a bit foolhardy. But, you know, I mean, let's face it, that's what the Japanese were doing. That was very, if I can use this, I guess, as a verb, Mahanian of me to do that. Okay, so I'll put these 2 up here in Japan, and I've got some aircraft carriers to build. Or I can build, rather. Okay, so let's see what the U.S. is going to do this time. Whoops. Sorry about that, dropped one of the cards. So we'll come down here. And we got 3 cards left. We have an A, and a B. Now, as I said, D's take priority and then B. So the U.S. is going to play the B card here. So this is fleet builds. Okay? So activate 2 areas for movement. Now I'm tempted, now that we kind of got the strategic initiative as the U.S., I'm tempted to go down and strike at the Solomons and take naval control there and then amphib into there at some point. And I get to put 2 more fleets in Pearl Harbor. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to send down my 2 fleets that I have at Pearl Harbor. And I can go 2 spaces. So that will take me down to the Marshalls for the time being, together with my aircraft carrier force as well. Okay, and then I'll be in position to try and clean out the Marshalls later. And I can activate another area for movement if I want. There's nothing protecting Fremantle, although I'm not really worried about that right now. But what I think I will do is I'll slip this fleet out of the Timor Sea. And I'll head over here and move into the Solomons. So we're ready for a combat there. Okay. Then I get to place 2 more fleets, brand new spanking fleets at Pearl Harbor. Okay. Alright, so. Boy, that was awfully risky, that battle before, you know. Yeesh. Okay. I could go ahead and go into the Marshalls again and try to force that if I want. The problem is I don't have a whole lot of amphib cards here in 1942. Alright, you know what? Let me go ahead and I'm just going to play this. I'm going to use the Tokyo Express, and I'm going to use it for the Amphib 1 area instead of the 2 infantry. And what I'm just going to do is take 1 infantry from the Philippines and move it down here into Borneo, so I'll be able to get that build point. I know it may not be optimal, but I need the build points. Japan's build points are critical because the build points are what's going to get you more cards next turn. You always get your year cards, which is 1943, and then after that, then you will end up with whatever card you buy from the discard pile. Okay? So here come the 3 U.S. cards. Let's see what we get this time for the United States. A. They're all A's. Okay. So since they're all A's, then you randomly select. So I rolled a 6. So going from this way, left to right, that means this Air Operations card is the next card to be laid out for the United States. So the U.S., with this Air Ops card, the U.S. gets to activate 1 area for movement and attack 2 areas using your air units only. Okay, well, let's see. Alright, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and activate Pearl, and I'm going to bring these 2 fleets down to beef up the protection there at the Marshalls, okay, and attack 2 areas using air units only. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and launch my carrier air here to try and get rid of this naval unit in the Solomons, and then I'm going to use my land-based air from Wake and see if I can't hit one of these fleets in the Marianas. That's going to be my plan here. Okay, so let's go ahead with the Wake one first, because I only get to roll 1 die for LBA. And it's spinning, so hold on to that thought. It is a 6, so that fleet will get damaged. Now, if there are units that basically cannot fire at opposing units, you do always get 1 die for anti-aircraft fire. Okay? Because a fleet can only shoot at naval units. But I will get 1 die to simulate anti-aircraft fire. And I rolled a 6. Okay, so the LBA at Wake Island is destroyed. But the Japanese fleet units now, I have 1 damaged and 1 intact. Okay, because we did take 1 damage point. So again, that's another fleet that's going to have to scurry home at some point and try to get fixed. Alright. Okay. Whoops. Sorry, wrong cup there for those guys. Did I lose them? No, found them. Okay. Alright, so that's the US card. Alright, back to the Japanese here. Oh, forgot about this die. Now, unfortunately, I really haven't got much done here, striking out towards Wake and Midway and such. But I wasn't able to secure the oil as fast as possible, too. Now, I'm sure there's optimal play that can be done with these cards. I just haven't figured it out yet, so just kind of bear that in mind as well. For the moment, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play this Minefield card just to see what the U.S. is going to do next. Okay, that's a delayed card I can use basically to try to protect myself against enemy build point grabbing, as it were. Okay, for the U.S. here, 3A cards again. And they're going to choose, this time, the Amphibious Ops card. Okay. So they can activate 1 area for movement and amphibiously assault another area. Alright. Well, let's see. Since Midway doesn't really seem to be under threat, I'm going to activate this, move this LBA over here to Wake. And then... to give me a forward base here, now cost of card is 2, so I can do up to 3. I'm going to go ahead and move these 2 guys from Pearl, and we're going to amphibiously assault the Marshalls and bring the Marshalls under U.S. control as a forward base now to strike at the Japanese Empire. Okay. Alright, I got 2 cards left here. And I do have the Midway card, but I can only amphib 1 area with the Midway card. And the question is, which one should I do? I've got my 2 carriers in Japan. I've got 1 carrier force in Borneo. I could still try to grab the Solomons, which one thing I don't agree with here in the design is neither New Guinea nor the Solomons qualifies as an automatic victory area, and yet the Japanese put equal effort into the Port Moresby operation as well as they did with, maybe not equal effort, I should say, but they put emphasis on it as well as emphasis on Midway and the Aleutians. So I'm not sure why one of these two spaces isn't, and the Aleutians, in my opinion, shouldn't be. But that's just my personal opinion because, again, the Allies were worried about cutting off supply to Australia in the long term. So in order to do that, let's do this first. So I'm going to go ahead and play this air builds card. I can activate one area for movement, and then I can place one LBA any friendly controlled area. So to bring my carriers within range and the fleets that can protect them, I'm going to activate Japan, and I'm going to move 1-2 spaces into the Marianas, and even these 2 fleets, the stacking limit will be fine still, because that's only 4 fleets total there. I'm debating whether to take these 2 infantry from Japan down to the Marianas too, because that would max out the stacking limit. But then I could have a chance to threaten Wake. So you know what? I will. I'll bring those guys down. And then what I'll do is I'll place another land-based air here in Truk to help me deal with the Solomon situation. Okay, so there we go. Alright, now the US has 2 cards left. They're both A's. So let's see which one. This time it's an even, so they're going with limited operations. Activate 1 area for movement, attack or amphib 1 area. Well, I could try to beat the Japanese to the punch on the Solomons, and I could try to amphib into the Solomons if I can wipe out that Japanese fleet down there. I could also force them out of the way. You know what? I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to activate this area for movement. I will move all these forces, the 3 fleets plus the 3 carriers, down here to the Solomons. Sorry, 4 fleets. And of course now the Japanese are kind of going, what the? And of course I will try to retreat the Japanese this time around. So, oh, I can attack or amphib. Shoot. Well, that's okay. Clear out the Solomons, build up the strength, and then, you know, try to climb the ladder if we have time towards New Guinea or towards Truk as well. So, I'm going to try and retreat. Now, in order to retreat, I need a 1 through a 3. And I did roll a 1 through a 3, sorry. So I have managed to retreat before combat here and get the heck out of Dodge. Alright. And I'm going to go ahead and pull back towards Truk, obviously. So, now, unfortunately, that is true. By doing that, I have now allowed the U.S. to amphibiously use an amphib assault into the Solomons, which they will promptly do. Taking 1 infantry here from Espiritu Santo. I can take up to 3. I could take another one from the Marshals, but I actually like the idea of both of these focusing on Truk here. So I'm going to go ahead and just use the 1 and put the Solomons under U.S. control. Okay, so that's that. Alright, last but not least now for Japan. Now I could save this Midway card for 1943 if I wanted. You can save cards. Let me see. I can activate 2 areas for movement. I can attack 2 areas. I can amphib 1 area. I don't know if I should risk this or not. You know what? Actually, given the situation, since I can't win, I'm going to go ahead and save this. Okay? As a Japanese player. For the U.S. now, the Coast Watchers card, I could save it. But you know what? We'll go ahead and we'll play it. And I'll use the bottom one to show you here. The Japanese lose 1 build point, but I can play my Minefield one to try and cancel that. So, I need a 6. And I rolled a 3. So, no luck to me. So, I will lose 1 build point for next year. Okay. Now, next step here. Supply-wise, everybody's fine. They can trace back to a controlled area. Supply is usually not a big deal in this game, to be honest. Okay, supply is actually pretty straightforward. All right. Now, the year end. First thing you do is you add the cards from the new year. Okay. So all the 1943 Japanese cards will go into the Japanese hand. Okay. All the 1943 U.S. cards will go into the U.S. hand. So we have that to start with. Automatically, you always get those cards. Now, from the Japanese perspective, Japan starts with 10 build points, and I can pick up 2 extra build points, 1 for Singapore and 1 for Borneo, provided I can trace a line of supply, which I can't. But remember, I lost 1 from the sub-attack, so I'm going to have to only end up with 11. Oh, repair, sorry, the fleet repair. So I can fix this fleet unit in Japan, I can fix this one at Pearl, and those are the only ones to be fixed right now. Right, okay. So, sorry, I skipped that. Trying to show you this here as well. So now, there are zero cost cards, which I can just get back if I want to. Now, of course, they clog up your hand and they can do things, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, other cards have a cost. So I can buy as many cards as I want here from the past, with exception, you can't buy the Pearl Harbor card, you can't buy the Midway card, to go ahead and use in this turn also, but I can only buy 11 points worth of cards. So, I'm going to go ahead and buy this one. That's 3 because I need CVs. I'm going to need the naval replacement, so now that's 5 points out of my 11. I need a card that has good attack things here, though, too. Now, I'll take a chance on the Yamamoto card. That'll be 6, because the Yamamoto card can be removed by the Allied Magic card, so you do have to kind of watch that. And let's see, so 6. I'm going to go ahead and take this, because this can be helpful for naval battles. That's 8. I got 3 points left. Whew, how to spend those 3 points? You know what? I'm going to go ahead and get these air operations so I can try to launch some carrier strikes next turn. So that's it. Now these cards, let me make sure, 2, 4, 6, and 4 is 10. Ooh, is that only 10? 2, 4, 6, yeah, 10. I can buy 1 more with the cost of 1. I'll buy the fortification card then. Now these will go into my 1943 deck, along with the Midway card I saved, and I will shuffle them up. Now, to show you how it works for the solitaire player, okay, basically what you're going to do when you buy cards is the following. And then I'll have to get going here because I think my little man just woke up from his nap. So being a stay-at-home dad, you've got all kinds of things you're doing all the time. So first of all, you want to divide the cards into 3 piles, A, B, and D. Okay. First thing you do then is you buy 2 cards from the pile that's the current strategic stance here. Now the U.S., well, hold on, maybe the U.S. will change its strategic stance because I only have, that's true, I only have 3 aircraft carriers left. So the U.S. actually will slide from D to B on a strategic stance, okay? Let me just double check that real quick, but I'm pretty sure about that. Let's see. Yeah, at the start of any year when Japan has less than 4 CVs, and I only have 3, right? I've got 1 here, 3 there, that's it. Yikes. So, we're going to the B pile. So from the B pile, I will buy 2 cards. Now, the B pile, quite frankly, only has 2 cards. Okay? And the U.S. always gets 15 points with which to purchase things. So here's 4 points right here. Okay? Now, then I purchase 1 from each of the other piles. And now, since the stance has changed, the priority has changed. Okay? So now, for a balanced approach, I'm going to purchase A cards before D cards. All right? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 here. And what I just do is I roll 4-sided die. And I rolled a 2. So that's card number 2. So there's another one I purchased. And then let's see, the D pile, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. So there's 6 there. And again, I'll roll 6-sided die to choose one of those. And I rolled a 5. So, shoot, it's going to be the magic. So now that's 7. Okay? And so what I would do now, of course, is continue to purchase until I reach 15 points, 1 card from each of these piles, and put it into the hand. And again, add those to the 1943 cards, shuffle, and split the decks into half, and we're ready for 1943. Okay? So, hopefully that gives you a good idea how this plays. I think I've showed most of the major aspects here. I hope I have. And hopefully you'll find this useful if you're deciding what to do with this game. As far as my thoughts go on the game, I'm going to save that for a review video I'll do here a little bit later. I'm not sure exactly when I'll do it. Hopefully in the next few days I'll have a chance to do my review video. But I also need to kind of sit and think and chew over certain aspects of this game, because this game is, a little bit of a spoiler alert here, this game is one that I'm having, is very much a dichotomy situation for me, or I'm ambivalent about. There are certain things I really like about it, and certain things I really don't. And I have to kind of list them for my good, the bad, and the ugly. For those of you who see my other review videos, you know how to do that. And then kind of weigh out which one, which one ends up being the tips the scales, if you will, for that. Okay? So, again, hopefully this gave you a good idea of how the game works, most of the functions of it, and how it plays. And again, there's not necessarily optimal strategy here or best moves. I'm just trying to give you an idea of how it goes, so you can decide whether you would like to spend your money to purchase it. Okay? So this is Tim Korchnoi from Bare Bones Wargaming, saying thanks for watching, and I will see you next time with my review of Pacific Tide. See you then.